What is the most used thing in Baldur's Gate or just D&D in general? That's right, actions and bonus actions. Basically everything you do uses actions. Want to open that door? You need to lockpick it with an action. Want to sneak past those enemies or pickpocket that merchant? You need to use an action to sneak. Want to punch that guy in the face? That takes an action. Do you even want to jump or teleport over a ledge to at all move on with the story? Nope, that uses a bonus action. Even something as simple as digging requires actions. So is it at all possible to beat the game when 99% of abilities are completely inaccessible? That is what I'm here to figure out today. As if this was not hard enough already, I will be doing the run completely solo with Honor Mode's legendary actions on all boss enemies. Why do I do this to myself? Honestly, I don't know. Anyways, without any further ado, let's begin. Of course, I start as Dark Urge, as it just makes the final parts of Act 3 a bit smoother. I choose Half Orc, just for relentless endurance, since picking some shorter race and reducing my movement speed is not going to be the play. Remember, we do not have the luxury of using dash in combat. I need some way of doing damage from level 1, and since my only resources in combat currently is movement speed and a single reaction each turn, the options are very limited. It almost feels like I'm playing Tempest Cleric every damn time, but we are starting as it yet again, as it gets a reaction we can actually use for damage. Getting into the game, it's time to clean up my hotbar and only keep the abilities I am actually allowed to use. Much better. I move on and importantly succeed on the roll to free us. Even though it won't be able to do anything, apart from maybe an opportunity attack, it almost has 3 times my HP, making it the perfect meat shield. After making sure to remove my armor and shield, I approach the first encounter. I position us next to the ranged imp to make it target him instead of me, and because I removed my armor, the imps can actually hit me, letting me take them out over the course of 3 turns with 3 Wrath of the Storms. At the helm, I grab the attention of an imp and a hellbore using us, and start making my way towards the transponder. Since I can't dash, I only get 9 meters of movement each turn, and so it will take quite a while to even make it there. Us keeps the 2 first enemies at bay, and because of it, I'm able to just barely make it over to the transponder alive. Down on the beach, I find my first usable ability, an instrument, since playing it does not actually use an action or a bonus action. Now, I may not be able to do anything else, but at least I can be below average at playing the drums. Onwards to our first problematic encounter, the Mind Flayers. I could not sneak past them since no sneaking is allowed, and I could not jump up this cliff either, so my only choice was facing them head on. The Mind Flayers are way too strong for me. Since I have no way of healing myself, as health potions use bonus actions, there is no feasible way for me to actually kill them. So then what can we do? Well, since I did not help or speak to Shadowheart previously, she managed to get all the way over to this door all by herself. And so, all I have to do is make it over to her without dying. This did take quite a few tries, but after a while I finally managed to get all the way down to her. And since she is not controlled by me, but instead just a temporary ally, she takes out the Mind Flayers all by herself without me needing to lift a finger. After the fight, as I'm disabled enough already, I tell her to just go away. After taking out the dying Mind Flayer, we get level 2. Right now, since we cannot respec, there is no real other choice than to just keep going as Cleric. Even though I'm the Dark Urge, I decide to save Gale.
Hello.
Insurance for later, just in case. And move on to the Grove to watch the goblins and men fight to the death. After a while, it's just me, Sevlor, a goblin, and a bugbear left. And even though they start chasing me, due to how much damage they have already taken, 2 more Wrath of the Storm and some support from Sevlor is just enough to finish them. Really cutting it close here as always. I grab the parasite from the Grove, and since I lack any patience, decide to just nab the statue for Mole right away. To get it, without everyone breaking out in Mortal Kombat, I make sure to teleport away right before it reaches my inventory. This trick kind of still works. It keeps the druid from getting mad right away, but after a while they will still close the Grove forever. But hey, sacrificing half the tiefling population is worth it. We do get the Ring of Protection after all. Before leaving the Grove, I also make sure to upgrade my one available ability by stealing Alfira's musical prowess. Approaching the Blighted Village, I got level 3, and this time, while I couldn't transform into a drow, I could still just pass the checks for the same results. Inside the Blighted Village, I found my very first piece of rotten food. It's not clear right now, and it won't be for a very long time, but these will be crucial in order to beat the game way later. In the Goblin camp, Shadowheart showed up yet again, but still not feeling interested, I just left her behind once more.
Wait here until you come to your senses.
Yeah, nah, you're gonna have to wait a very long time. I stole the Crusher's Ring from the foot of this goblin. It's extremely good since it extends how far we can move each turn, from 9 meters to 12 meters. After getting branded and getting rid of Gut, we could now make it all the way down into the Underdark. I did not have any abilities that could actually attack the explosive plants right outside the colony, but thankfully my rock hard abs worked just as well. Yep, I definitely calculated that hit. Upon resting here, we could now unlock our tadpole powers, letting me get another damaging reaction, Psionic Backlash. Withers now also showed up in camp, letting me move my levels from Cleric over to Druid. At level 2, Druid gets the subclass Circle of Spores, and with it, Halo of Spores. It is the only reaction in the game that can actually just be used as a normal ability, meaning that we finally unlocked a way to consistently deal damage to our enemies each turn. Of course, there is still a few problems with this. First off, it deals a mere 1d4 damage. Normally, you are meant to use it in tandem with Symbiotic Entity, which actually doubles its damage. But just like most other things, Symbiotic Entity requires an action, so that is out of the question. The second problem with Halo of Spores is just how bad the chance of hitting with it actually is. Even if we just target this random level 2 goblin, it still only has a 60% chance of working. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. At least we have a way of dealing damage consistently now. Before proceeding any further, it was time to make my way over to Joaquin's Rest. However, actually getting there would be harder than expected. I could not simply go over the river since I cannot jump, and the same goes for the broken bridge. Of course, I could use the mountain pass to go around the other way, but if I did, Floric would be dead and the item I desperately needed would be gone. I totally did not discover this after playing for like 2 hours straight and then needed to restart everything. No, I definitely went here straight away. So now, somehow, we needed a way of crossing this gap. There's only one possible movement option in the game that does not require an action or a bonus action, and that is Fly. But Fly is only available as either a spell requiring an action or as a potion requiring a bonus action. We do actually have a potion of flight from the starting bag in our camp. However, there is no way of drinking it without using a bonus action, so it's time to get a bit creative. Using the fact that dropping items on the floor does not cost any action, I could put down the potion next to my feet, and also using the fact that Halo of Spores can target anything, destroy it while standing next to it, granting me flight without needing to drink it, successfully letting me cross this gap. We now have a way of crossing gaps, but it is completely limited to the use of potions of flight, which are completely inaccessible apart from this one potion early levels, as no vendors start selling them prior to level 6. Inside the burning building, I could now free Floric. Yeah, I know the building is burning and all, but you gotta bear with me here, man. I'm doing my best. Eventually, at least. But she is not the reason we are here. Instead, we need the chest from inside this room right here. The one that would have been destroyed if we were to head to the mountain pass first. Currently, we have no way of opening it, as lockpicking a chest of any kind uses an action. So to open it, we would again have to get a bit creative. First off though, I decided to respec over to a level in Wizard and go collect Shovel. Using the scroll normally would not be allowed, but by learning it as a wizard, we immediately get Shovel's normal summoning spell. It is a ritual spell, but unlike the other ones, for some reason does not actually require an action. So by summoning in Shovel and walking through the door, we could now get her forever. Shovel cannot actually do anything, but at least it's a 7 HP meat shield. I went back over to 4 levels of Druid and got my first feat here, which I decided to put into Lucky. Lucky grants us 3 luck points, a resource separate from our actions that lets us gain advantage or force an enemy to reroll their attack. To open the chest with the item we had collected, alongside another one found here in the Blighted Village, I went down into the Centaurim hideout. They have a bunch of explosives just laying everywhere, and so by placing the chests down here and putting down an alchemist's fire I had purchased from a vendor, I could blow everything up without actually taking any damage myself. And collect my spoils in the form of the Haste Helm and Hammercraft. Hammercraft. This weapon is currently not useful, but trust me, it will be. Something that would be really useful for me, and I'd appreciate a lot, is if you click that subscribe button. It's completely free, and you can always just unsubscribe later. With the items now acquired, I scared away the gifts and entered the mountain pass, where I immediately ran into another ledge. This one was bypassable though. I just needed to succeed the strength check on this wheel here. Next problem we have now is getting into the creche. After the gift leaves and closes the door behind them, there are only 2 ways that remain of actually getting in. One is down here, this way, where we almost immediately meet another ledge. And the second way is past this other ledge right here. I tried stacking boxes to get over it, but for some reason the game really did not want me to. Instead, we have to utilize yet another trick. Using the fact that there's an attack option in this cutscene, we can cut it short before the gifts can run away and immediately engage in combat with them. This caused them to stay even after we disengage, and so all I had to do now was merge combat with the kobolds and then run away to watch as they fought each other. Turns out that 12 kobolds and 2 gifts are pretty much equal in strength. The kobolds just barely managed to squeak out the victory, letting me finish them off over a few turns with Halo of Spores. With free accessibility to the creche now, I was able to buy the Defender Flail, one of the few weapons that actually does something for us. The reason I wanted to get into the creche was the gloves inside of this chest right here, but this time, without the possibility of sneaking or pickpocketing, collecting them would be way harder. If I were to just try and grab the entire chest, the guards would see me and I'd be forced to fight them. I could not open the chest either, as each time I tried, the guards would immediately spot me and the chest would just not open. So instead, what I had to do was drag it away. In doing so, the guards will get a -5 to their attitude, but that does not really mean much, as they will never attack us no matter how low it gets. Each time I move the chest, the guards will also attempt to run up and grab it. But as long as I keep moving it without giving them a chance to catch up, this is not a problem either. So all I had to do was drag it all the way over to a chest that is not considered theft, and then put the entire chest in it. And after watching the guards run all the way back, I could now collect the gloves. These gloves inflict 2 turns of reverberation on any target we deal thunder, lightning, or radiant damage to. I collected a few parasites from the doctor's office, as it's not actually considered a crime since they cannot find them. They just get slurped up by us immediately. Taking a quick detour over to the Grimforge, I got level 5 and could now put 3 points into Fighter. At level 3, it gets the Battle Master subclass, giving us 4 superiority dice, while also letting us pick 3 maneuvers. There is only 3 that don't require either a bonus action or an action, and these are Precision Attack, letting us hit an attack roll easier, Evasive Footwork, granting all attackers disadvantage on all melee attacks against us for a turn, and Riposte, letting us retaliate on any missed melee attack with a stronger opportunity one. So now we basically have 4 guaranteed pretty strong attacks against enemies each combat. The boots I wanted requires doing Umelum's questline, and he needs a Tongue of Madness and a Timask Spore, which can only be found inside of the Arcane Tower. To get there, I would need at least 1 potion of flying, and since I was still not level 6 and therefore could not buy any, it was time to return to the monastery and fight the eagles. The eagles are way too strong for me currently, so instead of fighting them, after engaging, I went back down the vines, and after they followed me, used one of the many invisibility potions I had purchased to break combat. Then, by walking into the Grimishka room, I could merge combat with the eagles and get them to fight each other, having the Grimishkas easily come out on top. All that was left now was luring them out of the room and collect a whole bunch of eagle feathers, just enough to make 4 potions of flight. I used one of them to grab the Holy Lance Helm. This helmet has a chance of doing 1d4 radiant damage to anyone that misses an attack against us, passively letting us do a tiny bit of damage in fights without needing to do anything. Arriving at the tower, I noticed that it had all been in vain, as I had no way of actually getting through this door. Halo of Spores simply did not have enough damage, and lockpicking it was not allowed. So instead, I went back to the Grimforge and convinced these Dwergard to fight Nier for me, doing just that after killing the Scrying Eye with 2 bombs. Nier was not the one I was actually after. Instead, I just wanted his sergeant dead, as she carries the Ring of Absolute Force. Without much else to do in Act 1 currently, it was time to head over to Act 2. I used invisibility to walk past the waiting Harpers and met Karnis and his convoy on their way over to Moonrise, easily convincing him to drop his lantern for me. Now with protection from the Shadow Curse, after buying some fairly useful items from the Last Light, it was time to farm XP up to level 6. The easiest way to do this without needing to fight was just to walk around to the different Thorms and have them eliminate themselves. Jesus, I almost thought he came back from the dead to challenge me there for a second. It was not quite enough for level 6 still, so to get the last bit I went into the Gauntlet of Shar. After almost dying to these random traps, since I had no way of jumping over them, I used one of my remaining precious flight potions to cross this small gap here and got Yurgir to also off himself. Finally, we had gotten level 6. Vendors would now sell potions of speed and flight alongside the potions of invisibility they were already selling. And so I spent like an hour or so just partial resting and stocking up on as many of these as I would ever need. Dareth, usefully enough, also sells the Timask spores and the tongues of madness needed for the quest, and could now simply bring them over to Umalum and unlock his stock of items, which finally let me purchase the Boots of Stormy Clamor. Our build was now ready. Before using it, I decided to complete the Gauntlet of Shar, and since casting Knock is out of the question, we would have to beat all of the trials normally. The soft step trial was easily beaten with simple invisibility. The tricky part would be to actually collect the Umbral Gem. It's behind this gate, and as you've probably noticed, doors and ledges really are the biggest problems in this run. Since I couldn't open it normally, I just summoned Shovel through the gate and had her bring the gem over to me instead. The self-same trial was easily beaten by just stripping naked and then reposting the copy several times. I could not just jump over the Faith Leaf trial like I normally do, but I could walk over to this corner right here and then just click on the opposite end of the trial, letting pathfinding do all the hard work for me. With all the trials cleared, the path to Nightsong was now open, but before heading in, I wanted to try out my new build, and what better way to do so than in Last Light. So how does this work? Hammerraft has a unique ability called Shockwave. It can be toggled on and off and deals 1 to 4 thunder damage anytime the wearer jumps in a 3-meter radius. At first glance, this sounds completely useless. We are not allowed to jump after all. But here is where the potions of flight yet again save us. For some reason, flying works exactly the same as jumping, and so each time we move after flying, we cause a small explosion of thunder damage. This means that to scale our damage, all we have to do is just maximize how far we can move each turn, which is why the haste helm is so good and why I made sure to grab so many haste potions. Our gloves also trigger from this damage, giving our enemies 2 turns of reverberation, and inflicting these in turn triggers our boots, giving them another 2. So every other time we fly, we also do an extra 1d4 thunder damage, getting scaled to 1d5 by our ring. We now have a way to deal some pretty darn good damage using no actions or bonus actions. With just the movement speed from my first turn, I was easily able to kill Isabel, and the turns after clean up all of the turned Harpers. Funnily enough, our butler actually gave us the Slayer form here, but since it costs a bonus action, away it goes. Using my new powers of flight, I easily destroyed Sorel, after which I made sure to head down into the basement to rescue the trapped gnomes. It was now time to handle Nightsong, and after grabbing the Spear of Night, I went into her prison. Balthazar greeted us here, and after using yet another potion of flight to get down to him, I was just barely able to finish him before he could even summon his skeleton helpers. Even though I had the Spear of Night now, since I am not the whiny Shadowheart, I was not actually allowed to kill the Nightsong, and so instead I had to free her. I went right past the remaining soldiers and using yet another flying pod, approached Kethric on the roof. He himself did not stand a chance, as after killing his dog, Nightsong just straight up two-shot him, instantly making him leave. After taking out the remaining Necromites, it was time to follow him down. And here is where I discovered that I had made a massive blunder. While Nightsong is trapped, Kethric is completely immune to all damage. This would not be such a bad thing if we had any way of freeing her, but in order to do so, we need to use help. And help, of course, requires an action. Nothing else here works. You can't even kill her as she's immune to all damage while being trapped. I even tried convincing Kethric to skip right to Merkel, thinking that this might remove the invulnerability, but since it's not really Merkel, but just Kethric that has transformed into his apostle, he is still immune. So it's time to yet again go back to a save 1 whole hour earlier and head on back all the way over to the Goblin camp to finally acknowledge Shadowheart. I really wanted to do this as a solo run, but I guess some small help along the way will be required. There's something so funny to me about Shadowheart just standing here on the bridge for like 3 weeks straight doing absolutely nothing and then just immediately teleports over. She literally just does nothing and now she gets to murder Nightsong or whatever. Of course, I made sure to pick the options where I had to speak to Shadowheart as little as possible, and after wasting a whole flying potion on her and killing Balthazar yet again, brought her down to face the Night Song. Level 1 Shadowheart now got to take out the Night Song, after which I immediately told her to please just stay in camp forever. Time to once again fight Ketheric. But this time, we do not have the luxury of Night Song just instantly one-shotting him. I got as much movement speed as I possibly could, but after approaching him and using all of it, I had only dealt a measly 20 damage. This is because of his armor, making him take 2 less damage from all sources. So instead of taking 1 to 4 or 2 to 5 damage, we at most, with both of these max rolling, can do 5 damage to Ketheric each time we fly. And while it technically would be possible to beat him like this, it is not a realistic thing to do. So instead, it is time to use an exploit. After using up all my movement speed, by quick saving the game and then reloading it, for some reason, a bit of the movement speed gets replenished. Why this happens, I do not know. But this means that by reloading, doing a bit of damage, and then just quick saving and reloading again, we have now achieved infinite damage. And so, after reloading a whole bunch of time, Ketheric falls and we can head down and challenge Myrkul yet again. This time, Night Song is not here and therefore Ketheric is not immune. And so, after talking my way past phase 1, Myrkul gets the same treatment that Ketheric got. And after 40 minutes straight of reloading, he goes down. While this is an extremely broken exploit and you technically could get infinite damage at level 1 using only this weapon and the flying potion, it is not that fun to do nor that interesting to watch either, so for the rest of the game I will avoid using it. Anyways, with Myrkul down, it is now time to head over to Act 3. I escaped the first gift fight and using the same potion take out the other ones on my way over to the Emperor. Despite the best efforts of the ranged casters, the melee gifts quickly fall and the Emperor finishes off the last one with his chain lightning. After accepting the parasite from the Emperor, we now get fly without needing to use a potion, which is a good thing since I was starting to run out of them. In Rivington, I collect a few items that are not very important, but still nice to have, and because we saved them all the way back in Moonrise, the Iron Hand gnomes now come to our aid upon reaching the first checkpoint. I follow them into their secret hideout, but I'm not actually interested in talking to Wolburn. Instead, I just want to buy an item from this gnome right here, the Martial Exertion Gloves. They have an ability that, just like Action Surge, costs nothing, called Martial Exertion. But unlike Action Surge, after doing some substantial damage to the wearer, instead of granting them another action, it doubles their movement speed. This is basically a dash that we are actually allowed to use. I continue on to Worm's Rock and agree to help Gortash, and after that head over to the Devil's Fee. Helsing is here and she gives us our Butler's Hat. It grants the wearer momentum equal to their Charisma modifier. Before challenging Orin, I really want level 10, and so with nothing else to do now, it is time to grind 3 levels from level 7 to level 8 to level 9 and finally to level 10. Before respecking, I make sure to open this door by attacking this corpse with one final Halo of Spores. Since we no longer need Halo of Spores to break our potions, as we always have flight, I can instead put all 10 levels into getting as much movement speed as possible. To do this, we are going with Barbarian. I make sure to put 16 points into Charisma, and at level 3 we get the option of picking the Wildheart subclass, and with it get Elkheart. While raging, it gives us a huge 4.5 extra meters of movement. At level 4, I pick up the mobile feat for another 3 meters, and at level 5, get the fast movement feature for yet another 3 meters. Level 6 lets us pick an animal aspect, which is going into aspect of the elk, an ability that without costing any actions increases our movement by 1.5 meters. The level 8 feat I simply put into ability improvement for 18 charisma to get 4 momentum from our new hat. And so with this we are ready, or are we? How are we possibly going to trigger rage without casting it? It costs a bonus action after all. Well, remember how I said that the rotten food we picked up all the way back in the Blighted Village would be crucial? This is the very reason why we needed level 10. It gives us another animal aspect, and we can now choose the Honey Badger. If we are poisoned, frightened, or charmed at the start of our turn, we have a 50% chance of starting to rage without using a rage charge. Eating the poisoned food poisons us for 10 turns and miraculously miraculously enough, does not cost an action either, and so we can trigger Rage without actually casting it at all, therefore not using any bonus action. Time to try to build out on Orin. I use another Invis pot to skip past the invisible encounter, and since we are the Dark Urge, can just walk on into the Ball Temple. I eat a rotten fish and fly down to take on Orin. After succeeding to save Gale, it is time for the one-on-one duel. Orin deals some very negligible damage to us, and at the start of my turn, due to us being poisoned, my rage starts. I use my martial exertion and a haste potion, putting me up to, without having dashed at all, to 66 meters of movement. For some reason, the form momentum that my hatch should be giving me just did not want to trigger, and so if I were to instead have used the haste helm for 3, we would have 75 meters of movement. But 66 is still more than enough to almost kill Orin during her first turn, easily taking her out on the second. Because it's funny, I decide to accept Ball's gift. It gives us one of the 2 level 9 abilities available in the game, called Power Word Kill. But again, just like the Slayer form, it costs an action, so away it goes. With the second Netherstone now collected, it is time to meet up with Gortash and take on the Netherbrain. Gortash's mind gets shattered, and after getting saved by the Emperor, we accept the final tadpole to become an Illithid. Only one encounter left now. I use one last Invis potion to skip past the lower encounters, and here discover that for some reason, due to the fact that Mind Flayers get the old Mind Sanctuary buff permanently, we cannot actually start the fight with Rage as it uses an action. I don't know what's going on either. So without the ability to at all use the whole reason we have 10 levels into Barbarian, I enter the final fight. And before even being able to take out a single Mind Flayer, we have run out of movement speed completely. So how are we gonna do this final fight? Well, there is a reason, as always, that I accepted becoming a Mind Flayer. Since it grants us the version of Mind Sanctuary that is available everywhere apart from in Honor mode, we can do something pretty funny. For some reason, equipping items while in this state does not use any actions. And so, because our Crusher Ring gives +3 movement when equipped, and the game doesn't actually remove this if we unequip the ring, we can repeatedly remove and equip the item over and over and over to get all of our movement speed back. And as I said before, infinite movement means infinite damage, letting me easily kill off all the Mind Flayers during the very first turn. We are so close to beating the game now, but here comes the worst problem yet. To reach the brain, we need to use Karsus's Compulsion, which, of course, requires an action. No matter if it's me using it, no matter if it's Orpheus or the Emperor, it will always require an action. If I were to just use it and get into the brain, I could easily kill it during a single turn with my infinite movement. But again, no matter what we do, it will always cost an action. So close, yet so far. So it is time to once again load the save just after Orin's demise and use our previously acquired insurance. By recruiting Gale and bringing him with us to the Morphic Pool, he joins us in the upper city. And after using a, this time for real, final 2 invisibility potions, we bring him all the way up to the brain. And so, Gale, that just like Shadowheart has done nothing but just standing camp all game, gets to make his heroic sacrifice, teleporting me to safety before nuking the brain. So is it possible to beat Baldur's Gate 3 with legendary actions, solo, without using actions or bonus actions? Not quite. No matter who you start as, you will always need the help of either Gale or Shadowheart, putting the lowest amount of actions a solo playthrough can have to 1. But is it possible to just beat Baldur's Gate 3 without actions or bonus actions? Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. Consider checking out another one of my videos if you have not already seen them. It really does help me out, and I'll see you guys whenever I come up with another dumb challenge like this one. Okay, that's all. Bye-bye.